All right, this is the Coach Haas podcast, sponsored by Sports Rehab PA, and I have my co-host here, Mike St. George, Dr. Mike St. George, I should say. I always have to call him Doctor. He's earned that title. Michael, we have another nice guest on tonight. Ironically, another boy from Chicago. Well, not from Chicago, but is in Chicago right now. We talked about that last week on the podcast. We had Carmen on. Carmen worked at Fitlife, which was the place that I was the head trainer at prior to owning Sports Rehab. And Ben was also he was the director of sports performance at Fitlife for about a year. He came in when we needed a sports performance coach. We basically lost the coach there, and we needed to get somebody in there. And Ben was he was awesome. He worked with the coaches. He really onboarded them the right way. He was there basically holding their hand, but he was having them work out and putting them through and I really felt like that was the true way to really get because we ended up getting 3 new coaches in and 2 of them were like straight out of college. So it was a nice lesson for Ben. I'm going to let Ben Silvers talk about, how he got started in the business. He's now a sports performance coach out at Spear Training in Chicago. Is that
that is correct.
Suburb out there?
Yeah. So, thank you guys for having me on.
Ben, welcome.
Yep. Thank you guys for having me. Yep. Just like Joe said, I'm located out in Chicago called Spear Training Center, going on my 2nd year here. Prior to this, I was with Joe at Fitlife in Philadelphia. Like you said, I was the director of sports performance over there. It was a new experience, with all new coaching stuff, like you said. But we can dive into that. I came up here about 2 years ago in the efforts to continue my education as far as continuing to be a strength coach or performance specialist, whatever you want to throw in there. I got started around 2015 or so. I'd say I had a hankering for what was going on in the strength room. I probably started to play hockey and lacrosse in college. So, being a average sized guy, I had to find a way to be top of, best player out there. For me, it was the weight room that helped me. So I always wanted to give back, basically. And so I always felt that, you want to be one with the team. So that's one of the reasons I started plugging away at this, and just been lucky enough to kind of stumble my way through some doors and brush some shoulders with the likes of you guys and the guys at Spear, lucky enough to take me in. And now it's pretty cool being able to work with a bunch of guys from the NFL to the NHL to the MLB, and pretty much do the same thing as just try to give back and help the best way I can as far as bringing up weaknesses and seeing what their goals are and doing my best to deliver that.
Now you were down in Virginia right before you were with us at Fitlife,
Yep.
And you were down in Virginia. What was the place you were at down there?
So I was working at Powertrain from 2015 to 2018. From there, I was also the director of sports performance down there. I started part-time 2015 and then worked my way up to assistant director, and then finally took over as director and was there until I came to you guys in 2018 at Fitlife.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You see Michael down there. He's scratching away. Go ahead, Michael. Welcome to the show.
I'm just tuning in.
Hey, listen, I'm the same way. I go right to, it's just natural, but
it's strange. I got the damn mask on all day. It's like I forgot what my face looks like sometimes.
You know what?
Yeah. All right, so Ben, so what do you give us a little description as to what your population is of who you're working with, and what maybe your focus is on, maybe some specialty things that you do that are a little bit unique, with your clientele.
Okay. Yeah. So right now I am working with the likes of a few NHL players, predominantly goalies, which is a whole category in themselves.
Yeah.
A little bit more of a special category. They're all Russian. So you have a little bit of a language barrier as well as a specialty position. Along them, we have NFL quarterbacks. Right now it's Mitch Trubisky. We have some of the linemen in right now. So again, each of these are a little different positions. Ranging from that, we also have a lot of high schoolers right now. So obviously with COVID putting a halt on team sports everywhere, at least in Illinois right now, it was pretty big as far as us to reach out to these high school athletes, giving them still goals to continue to get bigger, stronger, faster, whatever it is. So when and if the seasons pick up, one, you don't see as many injuries. Two, they're able to hit the ground running, no pun intended. Through maybe we're able to get them a scholarship off just these training videos, or just, hey, even though you haven't been able to play football or soccer, we've been able to put 10 to 15 pounds on you, or your 40 time went down. Basically give them goals or something tangible to hand these coaches or colleges or things like that. At the same time, I also deal with anyone who's looking to really change their body composition. So not just 5 or 10 pounds, but if you're looking to lose 50 pounds in X amount of days. So it's more of anyone who has extreme goals and is willing to work as hard as someone thinks a professional athlete does. That's more of the clientele at Spear.
Okay, so basically the people that are motivated and are not going to come in and just like bullshit around.
Exactly. We are able to charge the prices we do because of the education aspect. So when you're asking about the specialties, a lot of it is based around Charles Poliquin, who passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. But so every trainer on staff, it has to be Poliquin or PICP certified. So Charles, as you know, before he passed, created his own system of programming, certifications, XYZ. So we all have to be PICP level, certified, at least level 1 to even get on board. From there, we always are encouraged to each year continue to climb. So we have that. We are all FRC, so functional range conditioning, if you guys are familiar with that.
I am not. Give me a little bit about. I've seen it before at FRC on people's.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, I think, sorry to cut you off, but yeah, FRC is so functional range conditioning. Guy's name's Dre. I think he's absolutely brilliant. Basically, it's about bioflow. Everything is connected in the body, and it's going to be a more, instead of warming up these dynamic movements, you can do this during the workout, during the day, in between sets. You can use this as a primer movement, as a finisher, whatever word you want to plug in, just do it. And it's the more of you're creating this better connection through the body. You're removing the gunk through the joints. You're going through these ranges of motion, and you're holding these modes. You're exploring the corners of the joints, so to speak, that you're giving someone their shoulder joint for the first time. They're able to move their toes for the first time, rather just as well as they can move their hands, the dexterity here to the feet. You're really giving someone their body back, so to speak. And it's incredible. We've been able to do it with Mitch Trubisky the minute he had shoulder surgery. A lot of people don't even know he had shoulder surgery this offseason.
Wow.
And the minute he's in, boom, he's doing pull-ups. He's doing this paired with it. So it's a way to talk to the joint before you do a pull-up. This is how we want it to fire. You're able to basically rework the neurological firings during the workout or before it. So we'll run it as an entire class on Saturdays and Wednesdays for our Bears guys or our high-end athletes, or even we'll run a stretching class, but it is all FRC. I think even the information is incredible. I mean, the approach to the human body that Dre has is, if it's around you guys need to go.
Mike, have you heard much about that? Do you know much?
I've seen some FRC like certifications like you, but I never really looked into what it was. I've heard of the Charles's training, but for listeners that aren't familiar with that, can you describe a little bit what that certification is and what that training breaks down?
Absolutely. So it's a way to look at the human body or the client that walks in. Okay, everyone has their assessment. Everyone has the way that they program. Everyone has the way that they break down the biomechanical problem, so to speak. Poliquin is one of the guys who looks at the entire body but breaks it down systematically. So in the PICP levels, you learn how to take apart the body. So level 1 is going to be upper body. You learn how to basically do what's called a fiber test. You take a client through a 1 rep max and 2 selected exercises and remedial exercises that will help strengthen the weaker imbalances of the client, basically. So you're learning to assess the upper body in itself. At the same time, Poliquin is also one who uses tempo in a lot of his training. Tempo is also referring to time under tension. Right, so you're looking at it through a continuum or a scale from 0 seconds to 120 plus, right? You can break it down. Everyone has seen at least a snippet of it. Hypertrophy is 40 to 70, strength 20 to 40, explosiveness, strength, endurance. You have different sections of this. So when you're looking at it, then you're able to put parameters on it as far as reps, equating to the time under tension. There's certain sets, inverse relationship. And then basically from there, you already have an algorithm for how to program at least a hypertrophy to an intensification set to always give the client, the athlete, whatever word you want to interject, a constant stimulus to always see that continual progression, whether it is at, achieving a body weight goal or a power production goal or a team goal. You're always able to assess the client versus their weaknesses through the assessments, and then go right into learning how to program for that. So it's kind of a 2-in-1 approach. You learn the tools as to how to look at the client, but you also learn the tools as how to program for the client at the same time, which is really big.
So now I'm assuming you're doing this in conjunction if they're in therapy, or is it after therapy? So if they had rotator cuff or a slap or labrum repair, something like that, they got to go through their early stage stuff, and I'm assuming they would come to you, obviously when appropriate. Is that how it's doing, or are you doing some stuff in conjunction with PT?
Exactly. So yes to both, right? So the biggest thing is having a clear communication with whether it's a PT or a doctor. We have a chiro on staff, so a lot of it we like to keep in-house. Mm-hmm. But if someone came to us from Illinois Joint, Bone, and Health, or someone came from biggest thing is not step on toes. Let's work together for this person. That's the overall goal. That's why they're coming to us. Let's do our jobs as professionals, right? Put the egos down.
Yes.
So if they're going to rehab, boom, what's the guy's number? What's the person's number?
Bingo.
Let's reach out. What can I absolutely not do? Because I'm a firm believer of staying in your lane. I am a strength coach. That is what my certifications are in. I will never tell you to bring anything else into the gym. I will stay in that lane. So that's my job is. That's what the PT, they're going to PT for rehab. They're not going in for strength. They're not coming to me for rehab. Let's call it what it is.
Right.
So when we talk to them, it's what can I absolutely not do? Okay, Yep. This is what my plan is. What do you think? Boom, the necessary feedback. If they don't want to tell me their plan, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to go ahead and do mine. Mm-hmm. Right. And so if it's after rehab, I will still call them. Hey, this person came in. They told me they are okay. Because we all know athletes will lie. Does it hurt? No. Can you play? Yes. So I'm still going to call and be like, right. Hey, this person came in. They said they're cool. Took them through an assessment. This is what I found. Did you see this? Okay, cool. I'm going to continue.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Exactly.
Sounds like our conversations, Mike, basically, right? I mean,
that's for the person, right? They're not coming in for you and your ego. Put it down and help them achieve their goal. If you can give them that, you have a client for life.
Yeah. We have a problem here with that communication because especially with the high school athletes, they're seeing physicians and unfortunately there's a lot of great physicians, but they're in these bigger networks and they're just slammed from management to see the numbers. They are literally in and out 5 to 8 minutes, and sometimes they might confuse a little bit the diagnosis. I've had patients come in and the physician, said something they should have been a little further with their surgery and stuff. And then I'm sitting there and saying no. And you start to second guess yourself like, well, maybe, there's a surgeon correct or am I wrong? But where they are in the stage of like a rotator cuff repair. And it's just they were in and they maybe just mixed them up with somebody else and they were saying something. I'm like, well, you're not even at the strength phase. So that doesn't make any sense, Right. So you gotta, so there's that difficulty and sometimes trying to get that interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approach and communication is a little bit hard. Trying to get in touch with physicians sometimes it's impossible. It's hard, but Joe and I have some physicians that we do get good communication with, but you're right. It's important. Sometimes you have to have that communication. I think, it's all about getting the athlete on board with doing that. I mean, anything I have learned from those that are working with the pro level, it is multidisciplinary. From the training that I've gone through in continuing ed was Kevin Wilk and James Andrews in Champion Sports Medicine in Alabama. They work together just like that. James Andrews does the surgery. Kevin Wilkes over there with his trainers, PT, communication. There's plenty of times when an athlete comes in and he's like, something doesn't look right, calls over, talk about it,
Exactly. And I mean, there's a lot of times where it's easier said than done. There's a lot of messages that are probably still on voicemails over here. It's not every time they're going to pick up, be like, oh, Ben's calling. But at the same time, as long as you're doing your job, That's all you can do. You can't control what other people are going to do. If they answer, great. If not, fine. We're going to continue with what we're doing anyway.
Right.
So.
You know what? It's interesting because when we had Carmen on last week, he talked about how he uses his assessment, right? He was talking about the Dow.
Right.
Ben's over here talking about how he does his assessment through the Poliquin certification. Mike and I are doing a lot, and I know Ben because, you know, when we work together, the FMS is there, the FCS is there. These are just different tools to get to the bottom line of getting the person the results, right? So everyone has their own way of seeing it, objectively, subjectively, however they want to go through it. What were you going through that certification while you were at Fitlife so that you got the job there? That's how you got the job at Spear, or how did that go?
So I got I'm going, I should preface it with, I'm going for my level 3 certification through Poliquin. I would like to already have it, but COVID, obviously the dumpster fire that it was for everybody, pushed everything back. So thank you, COVID. Mm-hmm. So I was a level 2 before I came to Fitlife.
Gotcha.
I got my level 2 my last year in Virginia. So what was that? 2016, 2017, I believe, right? Before I came to you guys.
Yep.
So I actually flew out to Spear 3 years ago for my first level 1. So that's how I came in contact with these guys.
Gotcha.
And you know what I mean? It was an open communication. Hey, do you like this gym? Yes. Would you ever want to come out here? Answers was yes again. We'll keep a warm connection. And so once they saw my connections into the hockey world and the NHL, and they were growing at the same time, it was, okay, this might be the right time to bring Ben on board. So it just happened to be the right time, right place.
Perfect storm.
Exactly. So, you know, they do want all their trainers to have it. So I already had it. So it was more of an easier, you know, it was a few phone calls and a few long decisions rather than you have to grab more of the carrot in front of me, so to speak.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. The niche with the goaltenders. Now, I guess the Russian part of it is just, I think, a little bit more because of hockey in itself. But the niche with the goaltenders, why, or how did that happen?
To be honest, I couldn't tell you. It started all because at Powertrain, Steve Saunders, who is the owner and who was kind enough to let me intern under him, you know, a little bit for the Ravens, and going forward, he had a client who was Semyon Varlamov, who is the New York Islanders goalie. At the time, he was the goalie for the Colorado Avalanche, and he knew that I was the only one that played hockey in college, right? So obviously, everyone knows where my interests lie. Everyone wants to be in the NFL. That was great. I was looking more to the NHL. So I approached Steve saying, hey, I know you have this guy as a client. I would love to train him. And for everyone else always knocking on the Ravens door, it was a nice change of pace for him to be, okay, wow, I can send this guy out with the program, knowing he likes this. He's not going to fanboy this guy. He's going to work hard. So it started there just because of that was the only NHL client I can get my hands on.
There you go.
And at that point, I didn't care. Right? You never looked a gift horse in the mouth. It was, I got a guy, I'm not going to let go.
Absolutely.
So that was the first summer. That was 2016. And then we happened to hit it off. I happened not to mess up. I guess he liked the way I counted to 3. And so every summer.
So listen, the job is to not hurt them, right? To keep them on the ice, to keep them on the field. That's all you're there to do.
Yep, drive the car, pat their head, tell them, you know, you're looking great, buddy. You're doing great. Yeah, so every summer when he would want a trainer, he would ask, is Ben available? And, it feels pretty good. But at the same time, I was the only one who understood the hockey life. And I think he wanted more of the connection part. So I think I had a little bit of a few things going for me, And when I decided to leave Powertrain, he decided to come with me. And that was the cooler part of trusting me with a big contract year. But yeah, so I mean, to be honest, it just started with that was the first guy I could get. We had a really good connection. I was able to keep him injury free. He's had double hip surgery, 6 pulled groins, MCL tear. So he was able, and that's a lot in an off season. So able to keep him healthy and able to continually progress him what has been a big fun challenge for me. So I think a lot of people have saw that, and a few other goalies have been able to, step forward and, trust me with their progressions as well. And it's a very interesting, they're interesting guys. And I think as a ex-defenseman who was never any good, I'll give you the puck back, but it looks square, not circular. It's you have the goalie defenseman connection. So, maybe got a few other things going for me. It's a long one today.
Now, do you incorporate performance nutrition, and do you get involved in that end of it as well with them?
Yep. Yeah. So I want to make it as easy as possible for them, especially with the language barrier. Not language barrier, but, no long fancy terms. You know what I mean? As simple as possible for them. So it's more of, I like to follow Renaissance periodization nutrition. I think those guys are absolutely amazing. I've used them personally, both weight gain, weight cut, and maintenance, and I've seen fantastic results. I'm a big fan of them, as well as Poliquin also has his own nutrition. I think I like to pull a little bit more of a Frankenstein approach, so to speak. I think everyone has great things. It's more of, can you mix it, and can you find something that works for your athletes? Again, if you read rice is the best thing, but it doesn't work for your athlete, well, you can't have rice then. It doesn't matter what chapter 9 says.
Yeah.
So it's more of, figuring out what works for them. And just, we have class time, I print out a packet. We sit down the first day. Hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what you're going to buy. This is what it's going to look like. Any questions? No. Okay, let's go get it. Let's go make it. This is how you do it. Any questions? No. Oh, cool. We're going to do this every Monday. And it just goes like that.
Gotcha.
Mm.
So you're a fan of the Shrug Collective.
100%. Yeah.
Brought on a couple of trainers with the pro guys that really kind of blew the lid on some inside perspective of working with pro athletes. You had Chris Knott over at Dunamis up in Colorado Springs, Odell Beckham Jr.'s personal trainer. He works with a lot of the guys, Denver Broncos. He's got Von Miller, some other guys. And you had Joe Ken come on. He was the guy for the Carolina Panthers. Now he's kind of doing his own thing with powerlifting. And they all have come to the same conclusion. And what they're saying is that at the pro level, unfortunately, a lot of the healthcare is not where it should be. And not even aside from what they both said, but when I've gone to continuing ed courses, I've learned the same thing. I went to a course where we actually were at one of the facilities that worked with the New York Jets, and there was a younger guy who was working with the team, and he had some information to say on that too. But a lot of these guys are not getting the care they need because, one, they either don't know where to go or what to do. They're just going down the street to whatever. They don't understand the value of the therapy, so they're just seeing whoever. Or they maybe they're not committed. They're not going in and doing what they need to be doing. Maybe the agent and them together not working together and getting them into the right situation. So they talked about some things about how they feel why there's so many injuries still at that top level, why a multi-million-dollar prospect is still going down with these injuries. But what's your perspective? Well, how do you feel? What do you think? Why these guys with amazing talent, these machines are still going down with injuries that a lot of people feel could be prevented?
Yeah. I mean, one, it's you hate to see it regardless of if they're on your fantasy team or not. Yeah. Right. I think it's answering them. I think I'm going to answer them in a kind of a bullet point form. Going back to your club or the organization question, being able to work across a full spectrum of the professional leagues, I think it's more of, it really boils down to the GM and what they want. If they care, it's going to be a really good organization throughout. It always starts at the top. Yeah. Or if it's bad, the route spreads from there. Yeah. So, I have athletes or clients that are on both sides of that. I have GMs who don't even know their athletes' names, and that the whole organization is just faulty. And I think I have a few people know who those are, and then there's also, a few that it's like a family, So I think it's really the luck of the draw. And as sad as that is, it is what it is at this point. Going to the strength staff and the rehab and basically the staffing part, I don't think any league is really up to snuff, to be honest with you. Whether people get mad at me or not, that's fine. Just looking at it, I'm sure there's always good people and there's always bad people. There's always outliers. There's always going to be an average, but it just looks like the education right now might be either all education applicable, or the fact that, or these are just family friends who are getting jobs. Because there's a few things you're dealing.
Bingo. That's what Mikey. On every freaking show you bring it up, and it's the truth. But I mean, Ben just that was very eloquently put there, because
it's
that's
true.
it.
But that's what these other guys said. That's the first thing that Chris Knott said. He said, I'm located up in Colorado Springs, and he's like, you want to come train with me, you will come seek me out. He's like, I can put my storefront out in Miami or these places, but I'm going to get these guys who are just coming in, and they're going to pop in here and there, not really committed. But he said that a lot of good trainers don't get their shot because nobody knows they exist. And then you're right. It's like because the guy down the road knew somebody who maybe worked in the office of the facility of the organization, and they went and shadowed them there in high school, and they got friendly with the trainers. And it's like, hey, you want a job, get some certifications. Now you're a trainer. Right. And you're working with pro athletes. And it's like these vanilla level, just, going through the motions of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And, it's a how dare you, the frustrating thing is that, people like us who put it as their career, or instead of people who just think that as a fallback plan, that can grind some gears. Two is the fact that you want to be the tip of the spear, so to speak. You want to be heavy as the crown. If you're not doing your job, you have one job, and you're not doing it to the top of the percent, how hard do fans or the analysts rip these guys? We should have the same thing for our positions.
Yeah.
If it was, the training would be 100% different.
Yeah.
There's a few teams in the NFL a few years ago that were putting workouts of the day on for each athlete. I'm not going to tell you which team, but just let that sink in for a second. That can't happen. If that's not going to happen at the gym down the street, how in the world is going to happen at the top level?
Yeah.
Going off the injuries, it looks like everybody wants to recreate the wheel. They want to change fitness. Nothing is new has been created in the past 300 years. Maybe the science has, but the exercises haven't. It's a cyclical pattern. And so, we can't kid ourselves. We're not going to create anything new. We're just going to do the best of our abilities with what we have and the new information at our disposal. It's the information era. It's not the enlightenment era of lifting. It's the information. What can you do with the information at hand?
Right.
The best player is going to be the person able to play the best hand. So it's more of, it looks like everyone wants to create it, and everyone is going to work on these balance and these drills that sound cool and use different terminology, and it's going to get you a lot of likes. But when you look at the mechanical loading that goes on in a game, whether I don't care what sport, contact or not contact, you're asking your body to be at these ridiculous angles at extreme loading positions, at extreme force, whether you're accelerating to accelerating, you're going to change directions, and you think balancing on something is going to protect that. No, I don't care if you're 100 pounds or 200 pounds. If you can't hit a full split squat or full range depth with at least 2 times your body weight as an athlete, and you're expecting your ACL to just hold, no way. Fuck you. Yep. So, sorry. I don't know
it's all right. It's all right. We're good.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just
Mike drops F-bombs all day long.
If you say it out loud, it's the rules when you're a little kid. If you say it out loud, it sounds dumb. Don't do it. Hey, you're going to balance on this. You're going to hold this above your head, and you're going to go expect to run at the fastest 40 of your life with grown men chasing you in a zigzagging pattern. No way.
Yeah. So a great example that Chris used was Von Miller was playing around and doing squats on a BOSU, just kind of playing around with stuff. Everybody wanted to do squats on a BOSU then and thought that they was going to translate. And then when Joe Kem was on, he was talking about that on the strength and conditioning problem, is that you get these programs where the coaches are really excited that we got 12 guys that could power clean X amount of weight. Well, no one gives a shit when you're like 3 and 12. So is what you're training translating into the field? Because these guys, what he was saying was they're compensating to get those last reps or to get that set, and the form and the technique is not there. Then when that demand is put on them in the fourth quarter, body has been trained to be under that type of stress, and then something happens. I mean, how do you feel about that, and how you train your athletes and making sure that, kind of what Kelly Stark says, is the training speaking the language of your sport? Is what you're giving your athletes translating over? Like Joe and I talk, men's soccer, high school, we don't need to be in the weight room doing bicep curls. We got to be working on the stuff that's translating the soccer performance.
Exactly. I think it's, any athlete that comes in, the goal is what are their weaknesses, and let's bring those weaknesses up. If you can do that, then if you do your job diligently and you do it right with the weaknesses, in the fourth quarter, your athletes will be the one with the higher work capacity. So it goes into proper programming, which goes into reverse engineering to make sure that you're not dropping off volume right before the season, to make sure that, you have the adequate work capacity going in. And you're absolutely right. It's knowing when to stop. Everyone can read the chapters. It's the art of the coaching is knowing when the athlete is done and you're pushing past and you're not going to get the same return of investment. Live to fight another day, minimum effective dose. This isn't the athlete's first love. This isn't their sport. They're using this to get better as a tool. We are just a tool in the toolbox of this athlete. Let's just do our job. And you're absolutely right. It comes down to the conditioning component, but also at the pro level, it's who can be better recovered. To be honest with you, it's more of, if you need to learn, whoever can recover faster is going to be the better athlete, whether it's the fourth quarter or whether it's the fourth game. So as a coach, it's knowing when to get just enough of the juice or the sweet or the meat and potato reps and just shutting it down right away. And a lot of people want to be martyrs, and a lot of people want to show the work ethic. And honestly, it doesn't matter. Work hard, work smarter, right, rather than harder.
Yep.
1 to 2 sets, get out. Get just enough of a stimulus, whether it's after a game, whatever you believe in, but the recovery aspect's the biggest part. But you're absolutely right. Don't force reps. Don't grind it out. No, die in the gym, ER, PR bullshit that, people want to. If you want to do that on a Saturday as a weekend warrior, by all means. But if you want to be an optimal athlete, you cannot do that.
Yep. Speaking of recovery, is that a whoop strap?
It is a whoop strap. It is. Yep.
There you go.
So I was going to get into that and talking about recovery for athletes. Obviously, there's a lot more discussion on a lot of different podcasts. There's all these, recovery methods that they have now. People are looking more into that, and whoop being one of the more popular ones. I've been playing around it for a couple months. What are you finding with it? You just kind of touched a little bit on it, but are you analyzing the data? Are you seeing, what are you seeing with it? How accurate are you seeing it correlate? If it says someone is recovered, are they really recovered, or do this guy just had like a crazy game, it's not really there? Like, what are you seeing?
Yeah, so I think anything that you're going to wear, you should take with a grain of salt, right? I am not taking this as the gospel, nor should anybody else. So far, I have had the Whoop personally for about a year. I've been working with Whoop for about 2 years now. That's what I have my goalies use, actually. We'll switch between that and a Garmin heart rate monitor, the one that goes around the chest.
Yep.
Sometimes we'll do both as a double, just so I can get a double kind of read. But I'll use it for every workout we do to track where their heart rates are, where their resting heart rate is when I'm living with them. I just like to know these things, but I use it just as a measuring stick rather than, again, the gospel.
Now, they wear the wrist one even underneath their gloves, or are they doing the bicep strap on it?
So with the goalies, they'll wear it right on the wrist because it's pretty flexible on their catching side.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll have them wear it, and it's a good thing to have. I'll get complete control on the numbers. Sometimes I don't tell them the numbers because that's a whole nother thing we don't have to get into right now. But just strictly on the Whoop, I would say that it's I think everything's trying to hit a moving target unless it's internally implanted, but that would be a little painful. But it's a good one. I think it's one of the better ones. I'm really impressed with it. I'm really impressed with the recovery metrics. I love how it prints out a weekly and a month reviews. I think the way it averages it out is great. Personally, the recovery for me has always been pretty much spot on. I've had a few clients that the recovery's been off. I would gauge by about 10 to 20%. Nothing too crazy. Like I said, take it with a grain of salt. But so far, I think it's worth the money. If I can use it on my professional clientele, shameless plug. Yeah. I think it's good enough for anybody else, to be honest with you.
I like the sleep cycle that it shows. I think that's important to show you what's going on with the sleep.
Yep.
I find that helpful.
Recovery too. I want to see if my athletes are traveling overnight. They have 4 games in a week, 3 games in a week in different time zones. Averaging it out. Hey, this is the way your sleep's been the past week. This is the past month. That's why you don't feel bad. That's
Yeah.
why you feel good, all this stuff, and just keep this data, use it, use it for them.
Right.
Now,
There are more guidelines, like you said. It's not.
Exactly. But again, it's to play devil's advocate. If we're gonna have a big workout or if they have a big game, they don't wear it. But once they go to the NHL, once they go to their teams, I'm not touching them. I don't want to step on toes. But if we have a big workout and they're at 0% recovery, but I look at them and they look good,
right.
I'm not gonna tell them.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell them, hey, you're at 0, go home. But
Right.
there are days, you know what I mean? There are days where I'm going to tell them, be like, hey, how do you feel? And then I will show them the numbers, but I won't give it to them every day.
Right.
Well, there's other factors because you could add in your logging on other things, your the diet, your stress, things like that. So it also accounts for that. And it might calculate that data to say, well, judging by this algorithm, you might not be recovered. But sometimes the person, and I'm also going back and forth on thinking about what type of stimulus are they not recovered for? Are they not able to do a heavy lift or a high volume workout? Or is it maybe they're just cardiovascularly, maybe taxed, but their muscles are fresh somehow? So maybe they could do a lifting session. So I'm kind of wondering, when the WHOOP says recovery, what is it accounting for?
Right. As far, again, for at least personally, every time the athletes have been in a poor recovery, it's all been their CNS. They're just fried. It doesn't even matter if they're going to do, it's a functional effort. It doesn't matter. These guys it's just pulling rope at that point. Again, it could just be these athletes because it's very specific. We're looking at a very, very small percentage of the population. But like you said, there's multiple factors. That's why it's just one tool. I will still go through the same daily assessment with these guys that wear it, just to make sure that, okay, we're not strictly going to go off WHOOP standpoint. This is just, hey, I'm keep this on the back burner while I take you through the rest of this stuff. If you fail all of it, you're going home.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
So now when these athletes are in season, how do you calibrate, how they do their workouts? So, you got, NHL playing multiple games. You got the NFL every Sunday. So they get beat up in a game. Then how do they maintain their strength and their lifts and stuff throughout the week without breaking themselves down so they're sore or beat up? Like, how do you judge adding that stuff in? That's kind of the thing a lot of people ask is, how do these guys stay strong within season when they have all these extra demands on them? And then maybe there's some that don't, like there's some that just don't work out, or, they kind of get deconditioned throughout the season.
Yep. You're absolutely right. So there's people who don't want to touch a weight during the season. Okay, perfectly fine. They're grown men, they're grown women. We're not, okay, fine. If they're part of a pro team. So if they're a part of a pro team, they'll come in maybe once or twice a week. My hockey guys, unfortunately, they don't, just because they're spread out and I'm only in one place. So if they want to program, I'll send it to them. If not, they're on their own, and maybe I don't hear from them for a few months. But at least the people that come in, at least once or twice a week, ideally, and it's going to be more of looking at the muscles that aren't used and use those. Okay, the remedial muscles can always strengthened. You can always do a Peterson step up. You can always work the joints. You can always do an external rotation or a power raise or a trap 3 raise or neck work. You can always work the smaller muscles to make sure that you're just keeping the standard. Everyone knows that, you drop 1% of strength, you increase your likelihood of injury by 6 to 8%, which is ridiculous. So you lose 3%, now you're playing roulette with your own body. You work so hard in the off and you're going to drop it for what? Because you're tired? That doesn't make sense. Yeah. So everyone knows those people that look so good at camp because they worked hard in the summer and they stopped, and then as they go down, their playing goes down. That makes no sense. Now you need to learn how to peak the program, but it's more of just maintaining the basic strength. You're not doing anything crazy. You're looking at, if you're doing cleans or if you're doing anything explosive, make sure it looks good rather than it just looking fast like you're pulling rope. If you're using a speed device, make sure it's the baseline. Or if, just get enough of a stimulus through the muscles that aren't being used, or enough, a split squat, a leg curl to make sure hamstrings always involved, a pull up, make sure you just have a full body. I don't like the word pump, but you're getting a full body workout once or twice a week, whatever it is, to just maintain. 45 minutes, get out.
Do you have some type of assessment tool that you will use? So say you'll do it training camp time, then maybe you'll do it, all right, we're approaching, we just had a bunch of games, we're getting closer to playoffs. Let's do another thing. Let's look at your movement quality, see if some things are off, and then maybe let's plug in some things to make sure that you kind of reduce any risk for injury. Like, you're starting to get a little asymmetrical with some of these things here.
Yeah, I think so. After every phase, so after every 3 weeks, is we're going to reevaluate.
Okay.
Running you through the same assessment. If everything looks good, which it should, we're going to continue down the path. If it doesn't, okay, where's the issue? Okay, let's, lateral movement here before we go back up and try to move that needle to the right as much as we can. We at Spear, and I think Poliquin or Kilo Strength Society is another big one. If you guys have heard of them out in Cali, they're actually coming to host the certification next 2 weeks at Spear. But it's all about reverse programming. When does the season start? When are we peaking? Off season, what's healthy, what's not. In season, looking at, okay, this is what the program for the in season should look like. Here are the percentages for phase 1 accumulation, phase 2 in season intensification, but making sure that you're not overloading the athlete again, right? It's all about recovery, but at the same time, they have to maintain their strength. So you're going to have to pull some teeth some days. If you can get your athletes to lift right after the game, you do it. If they wanted to come in right after the game, we would be there. Sometimes they're going to lift at their facilities, and again, that's out of our control.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it is if you can create, again, it goes back to open communication, but you're absolutely right. In season, you need to lift, and that's more of the art of coaching. Everyone has their opinion, but it's more of what does the athlete look like and what does the schedule look like. Again, 1 or twice a week, regardless of how many games, would be our answer. What
about preparation before the game? So an example that was used was, you'll see a NFL defensive back going to make a cut, blows his Achilles, and people say, well, how'd that happen? Come to find out, that morning he went to get a massage. Mm-hmm. And the question is, where was, the defensive backs coach, or basically, the responsibility over that, knowing accountability, knowing where my athletes are before the game, knowing we're not going to go for a massage and stimulate some relaxation process for you to come in 8 hours later under the lights and play full spectrum. You're basically mixing the messages between your body. So the guy got the wrong response and he went and blew the Achilles. So sometimes these guys just don't know. They think that, that I'm going to get after the game. And you get a response like that. So when it comes to communication with a lot of these guys and preparation, so an example would be, a better thing would have been, there could have been an active warm up or maybe biking or something he could have done earlier before that game instead of the massage. That communication to these athletes, so they don't do something like that could risk them an injury.
Right. And you're right. Again, it's more of taking extreme ownership from the coaching standpoint. If that happens, you can't blame the athlete. You have to look at yourself. Okay, clearly I wasn't clear enough with what I said or what the parameters are. Because you went and did this, you assume that that's what I wanted. That's on me, not you. So you can't put all the blame on the athlete. They're grown men. They get a little bit of it, but it's more of, hey, this. We need to be better at distributing the right type of the word, right, or preaching the right stuff, right. Right. You said not enough good coaches get recognized, but that needs to be on everybody as, hey, these are the recovery methods that we recommend. Here's the box. Any questions? Oh, you want this? No, that's not in the box. This is why. Trust us. Here's this. You can try it in the off season before a workout. Oh, you didn't hit your weights? I wonder why. Aren't you glad you didn't do it during a game? Yeah, us too. So it's more of figuring out the box and doing that. And you're absolutely right. Is a massage the best thing? No. But you can't underestimate the power of a placebo. There's always going to be outliers. Mm-hmm. Everyone's read the old morphine test and the non-morphine test in the dentist chair with these people. Like, the placebo is huge. So there's always going to be people, look, if this girl wants a massage and they've been dominating, that's what they want to do, okay. Mm-hmm. There's always going to be those people. But for the 80% or the common or the herd, so to speak, it's more of, this is what we want to do. This is FRC positioning, and that goes into cars and pails and rails. Anyone who's taken FRC understands those things. It's doing a dynamic warm-up. It's listening to your body, moving it the right way before a game. If you want to do the hip circles that everyone sees, as long as and that's what you think is really going to work, as long as you are properly warmed up before that, okay. If you work with pro athletes, a lot of it is figuring out it's a relationship. You do what? No, you can't do that. You like that? Okay, maybe you can do that. And just figuring out this is what you're going to do in a game. This is what I want you to do. We're going to find this happy middle ground so we both win.
Nice.
Just that.
Nice.
The going back to the barbell shrugged, I was listening to one the other day, and they were talking about adding resistance bands to the, and I remember seeing you do a lot of that, to a lot of the loads. Would that be something that you would add into the in-season type of program, to add a different type of load?
So accommodating resistance with bands or chains, I think it can be done. Personally, I haven't done it just because I don't want to add a new stimulus to the athlete during the season.
Gotcha.
Now, during the off season with these athletes that I've had, we've used bands. Would I use bands for them? I would. Yeah, I would. I've done it in the past, just not with these athletes right now. You know, what is it? Starting 8 or strength 8. There's a baseball gym off West Side Barbell that pulls into bands. Usually sumo pulls from blocks into bands, or pulls normal into bands before a game. You get, you fire without really loading it. I think it's a great idea on paper. I've tried it personally. It's worked, but as far as beer league hockey goes, but I just didn't want to really risk it on these high profile athletes.
Gotcha.
It's more, I'd rather work my way up, right? You have to start somewhere and experiment. These guys at other gyms have done it. I think the science is really great. I would love to try it. I just didn't want to risk it with my athletes just yet. I love the idea. I think accommodating resistance is great, as long as people understand they use it for extensors, not flexors. And I think that's a whole different thing, and really understanding how to load it. Shout out to Louis Sims and Westside for really giving us the model of how to understand band tension and chain tension and on top, and really what you're looking for to do it, rather than just staple yourself, blow your spine out of your ass. But no, I think it's it's a tool, right? It's not gonna turn, Steve into Saquon Barkley, but I think there's a way. It's always going to work for some athletes. I just haven't used it yet with mine in season. As a long-winded answer.
Gotcha. There you go. I like it. Michael, I'm going to go into the speed round with Ben here. Usually I like to ask 3 questions, kind of get a different feel for what you have going on personally. And the first question is, how do you define, or what are your success habits? What are some of the things that you're doing daily? What are your success habits?
Success habits. I like that. So one big thing is I like a grateful log. I'm a big believer in, everyone has things that they're grateful for, but you always forget. So a big thing for me to do every morning and night is 3 things that you're grateful for in the morning and 3 things you're thankful for at night. It's a Poliquin thing. It's not a strength coach thing. It's just more, this was a habit of successful people he's found through commonalities. As the more I've done it, the less stressed you are at night. You're able to let things go. The happier you are in the morning, even if you're waking up at 3 o'clock, and then instead of being, damn it, Cheryl, why do you want to work out at 5 a.m.? It's, you get to work out at 5 a.m. It's the changing of the perspective.
The language, changing your language.
Exactly. That's a big one. Another big one is being able to give 1 hour every Sunday to planning your week. Putting on your Bose headphones or putting on your headphones and canceling it out, and really, really planning and attacking the week. Not, this is what I'm doing Monday, Tuesday. This is how I'm doing it on Monday. This is what I'm doing at 9 a.m. on Monday. This is the way I'm writing this program. This is how it's going to look. This is how my 10 a.m. This is what I'm going to eat. This is how good it's going to taste. Maybe that's, maybe getting too crazy like that. But again,
that's intense. That's dialed in. That's really being dialed in.
Knowing my 7 o'clock workout is, knowing what my 8 o'clock workout is. You have it pulled up. You have it loaded on the iPad. So you can just, when you wake up, you have your pillbox loaded, your coffee's ready. It's just, you press start and the day's easier.
Gotcha.
I hate being rushed personally. So that's a big one for me. The third one would just be, again, pushing the envelope. It's can you work a 12-hour day, 12-hour day and then go home and listen to a podcast rather than, can you work on yourself after working all day? There's stories of a lumberjack, there's a lumberjack story of, there's 12 lumberjacks, 11 of them after a 12-hour day go to the bar. The 12th lumberjack goes home and sharpens his axe for the next day. Be that 12th lumberjack. So that story to me was just like, fuck, that gave me goosebumps.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Yo, I'll tell you what, that one I want to highlight that on the pod. That's a great one. I see. And that's why I ask these type of questions, because they're the things, if you follow me on Instagram and you see that it's about meditation, it's about prayer, it's about being grateful, which is great, because when I get to the third one, it was almost like I actually changed it, and I was hoping that there was going to be something that was going to direct you to this third one, which is going to be great. But let's get to number 2. Number 2, what is your biggest obsession right now?
In the field or just in life?
It could be in either or. You can give one of each.
In the field right now, it's clean and jerking 350 pounds. It's been on my shoulders for a while. I think I would very, very much like to do that.
Okay.
Obsession in life right now, I would probably say Schitt's Creek on Netflix would probably be the biggest obsession right now.
Yeah.
I have heard, my parents have talked about it. I have heard about this show. I am not a TV.
Boys on Amazon.
Yeah, I've heard
good things on that one.
The Boys is very entertaining.
Interesting. All right, number 3 brings us back to almost number 1, and give me your definition of gratitude.
Gratitude. That's a good one. Put me on the spot. My definition of gratitude is being able to understand the position you're in, how lucky we all are to be in that position, and what are you doing with that position. We're all in a great position. I think we're all very lucky individuals, especially us 3 on this podcast right now. It's more of, what are we doing to give back? What are you doing to understand, hey, we are in a huge role. Amen. 1, don't drop the ball. 2, be a good person. And 3, do the best you can with what you have is the best way you can do anything, whether it's being respectful or gratitude is just that, understanding who you are and what you can bring to the table and just doing all that.
Awesome. Wow.
Hey,
what did Carmen say last week, Mike? Number 1, don't hurt the client. Number 2, don't be an asshole.
Also, big one. Yeah.
That's where I thought you were going with it, but I mean, it was very, very similar to that.
Yeah, we're going with it again today.
That was 3 really good answers. But when you were talking about your success habits and you were talking about the grateful part, that just made that number 3 question perfect, because I mean, like, what is it? I mean, that's what is gratitude, right? Like, how do we define it? Everyone's going to have their own answer to that. I loved your answer to that. I'm blessed that I'm able to do these things every day. I'm blessed that I'm able to help people, and just like you said, it's the language. What I say to myself every morning, I don't have to go to work. I get to go train these athletes every day and get them better. And by getting them better, gets me better. Yes, I'm taking care of myself and I'm doing my workouts, but there's no better joy than going in there and working with these kids and then seeing that, the things that they say, that the testimonials on the wall and stuff like that. It's awesome. It's a great thing. Mike has really helped me push this podcast. I'm grateful for him that he's been able to really stay inspired with me doing this. And we just got over 1,000 listens. I think yesterday. I just happened to go on there to check everything for tonight, and I saw that there was over 1,000 listens. So, Mike,
awesome.
we're on the big things, man.
All right.
I usually put it on Mike at the end here, and I have him wrap it up. So, what do you got there, Mike? Let's give me your final thoughts there, buddy.
Well, speaking of the podcast, I never really was into podcasts until started listening to them once I got more involved in like doing obstacle course racing, and just I wanted to find stuff to listen to that was worth my time. I don't want to sit and listen to like a TED talk about like mindfulness or something. Just me personally, I don't want to sit and listen to just stuff that's maybe not relative. I like listening to these fitness things because we cover all those type of topics. You get to talk about training, you talk about mindset. I mean, the Shrug Collective is great. I mean, they bring on so many different disciplines. There's a couple of podcasts out there that bring on just great guests, and it's like free education. You get to listen and learn and realize how many other different people are out there, and realize that you could change your thought process and view, or you could realize that your thoughts are paralleling with other people. And that's kind of cool, because then it's like checks a box, like, hey, I'm kind of going in a good direction here. But, you never want to get obviously too ahead of yourself. You always want to be that sponge in learning. Like, just because, like, we talked about this last week, I just hit 10 years of being a PT. I still feel like I just graduated college. It just doesn't seem like that, but I'm always open to learning from other disciplines, and you grow, and these podcasts are a great opportunity to do that. You get to sit and discuss and talk about these things and how we can make things better and constantly improving, because that's what I think life is about. And I think there's a lot of people in our society, especially in Western culture in America, that they're just deadbeats. They just don't have a purpose, and it's sad. It's sad to see that. And through the things I've been through in my life, I wake up every day now trying to make the best out of each day, and to find someone like Joe who has that energy, bringing on guys like you who have this passion and want to be 110%, and not just these average schmo trainers out there, I just can't stand that. Like, I'm at the point in my life where I call it like it is, and it's not to be a tough guy, but it's just to be like, really, like, with all the age of information, all this stuff, and you're still settling for bare minimum, like, you don't aspire to be better? Like, exactly. Really, So, the quote that I told Joe yesterday is, as you're going on this path and we're trying to improve, there's always going to be those people picking at you. And I say it to the high school athletes too. You're always going to have haters and people that are going to try to climb and claw you down, but it's a compliment, because those people are focused on what you're doing, that they must like you. So you must be doing something good. So I say winners focus on winning, losers focus on winners. So if you're focused on what you're doing, you're focused on the end goal.
That's it.
And those people that, are too busy focusing on what you're doing, they're not focusing on themselves. But maybe if they looked at themselves, they could learn a little bit,
100%. There's a lot of people that are asleep going through life.
Yes.
You hit the nail on the head. It's up to us, the people who aren't like that and who are afraid to be like that, in order to more of a, find each other and connect for whatever it is, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a gym, whether it's even a friendship. It's more of be like-minded with these people. And if you're getting taken shots at, good, keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing something right. You hit a nerve, whether it's because you're doing something they didn't think you could do, or you're doing something that they are afraid that they couldn't do.
Bingo.
But either way,
honestly, then that's what pushed me to do the podcast.
Good.
And I'm going to say it flat out. Like, I was fearful about doing it. I was afraid of what people were going to say, and like, oh, you're not good at it. Or I honestly, I could care less. I mean, to me, not only do I get an education, but I get a chance to network and reach back out to guys like you and Carmen. Like, I haven't seen you in forever. We talk, through text here and there, but things like this is about building a network. And again, this ties back to the very beginning of what you talked about, is checking your ego in at the door. Like, there's no ego here. Like, I learn, and I want to ask questions, because there's a lot that I don't know. And I love the fact that people think I know a lot. That's great. But I'm going to Mike, and I'm going to you, and I'm going to Carmen, and I'm going to these other guys to get more information and to get more value. And at the same time, now with the podcast, I can get that right back out and people can hear it. Like, I'm going to ask the question that maybe somebody at home sitting there thinking like, oh man, I'm glad he asked that, because, that's something, that I just like being in school. Like, oh, thank God they asked the question, because now I don't have to ask it, but I got the answer.
Right.
I needed.
And you want to see growth from every video. Don't go back. Don't be the person that deletes their first Instagram post or the first YouTube video or the first podcast. Go back and see the first one. Look how brutal it was. Good. You should be way better.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. We're on season 3. I said season 1 didn't even
look at
count.
what I look like.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And you should be getting better. And, big quote guy, obviously. A big one for me is continuous improvement is better than, delayed perfection.
Yeah.
No,
Say that one again.
Perfect. What do you say?
Say that one again. I like it.
Continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. You know what I mean? It's no podcast is going to be perfect. No program is going to be perfect. No PT is going to be perfect. No play is going to be perfect. It's more of, but you did it.
Yeah.
But how many people haven't even started yet?
Yeah.
So,
Ben, where can we find you on social media?
You guys can find me at Ben_Silvers on Instagram. That is the only thing I am on. Actually, if you find me on Facebook and you are mad that I haven't accepted it, I am sorry. I do not know my password. My computer doesn't either. So don't take it personally.
Awesome.
You can also find me at Spear Training Center. So I run the social media page for them alongside John Sikora. Again, we are located 45 minutes outside of Chicago. My email is bensilvers@speartrainingcenter.com. I'm not giving out my cell phone.
There you go. Yeah, don't do that. We have a lot of listeners on here, so they'll be calling you all night long.
You two, I want to answer to, but we're gonna keep the number private. But yeah, Instagram is probably the only thing people want to look at.
Awesome.
I'll scream a little bit and maybe post one or two insightful things every now and then.
Michael, where can they find you?
Mostly on Instagram at icor_St. George. I'm on Facebook, but I'm really only on there just to I'm part of just some groups and stuff, but really it's the Instagram. I like to use it, just to network, people like you now. I met Ben, and see different training stuff, send things over, tag people in some cool stuff. That's what I like to use it for.
Awesome. You can find me at I do this every week, at Coach_Haas. But before I get off, I want to do a shameless plug again. Well, not a shameless one, but I don't know if you can see that or not. But I've been using these bio optimizers, mass enzymes. Mike, you referred me to these. I've been going through some just little things, just trying to figure out my gut health. And these have been a savior over the last few days. So I want to give a shout out to them, bio optimizers, mass enzymes. So if you guys ever get and listen on our podcast, which they should be, which now I'm going to start remembering when we're done, please, if you listen to the podcast, leave a review at the end and let us know how great we're doing or how shitty we're doing. But probably just tell us how great we're doing. I don't want to know we're doing shitty. Just tell us how great we're doing. Just keep, pumping up our ego. Ben, thank you again. I really, really appreciate your time. I know you're flying out tomorrow to go down and do some training down in Florida. Is that where you're going?
I would maybe the trip's going to be extended, but I'll be in Georgia for a week first at 5 Rings, and then
there you go.
Maybe play a little hooky and go to Florida. So hopefully no one from Spears listening to this.
Awesome. Maybe they are. Maybe it's gotten out there, and the podcast is just going to it's going to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna wake up to
sponsorship.
I'm going to wake up to a text saying we'll see you on the 22nd. But hey, thank you guys for bringing me on. Thanks for making me feel special and important like you guys. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I had a bunch of things written down, and I just managed to go ad-lib. So hopefully I didn't mumble or embarrass myself. But
not at all. Not at all. And listen, we're going to have you back on again.
Absolutely. I'd love to. I'll be more prepared for you boys next time.
Awesome. Mike, any final thoughts?
No, man, that's it. Well, we'll be in touch, man. I'll find you on the gram, and yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, boys.
I'll hit the friend request. I'm in charge of the Instagram.
There you go. All right, man. You guys have a great night. Thank you again. Mike, I'll talk to you during the week.
All right, man. Sounds good.
See ya.
Take it easy.
Bye.